A stadium holds its breath. One team has come to be absolved. The other has come to deny it. 80 minutes of perfect football have written the story. 2-0, one team untouchable, the other searching for oxygen. And then the ball drops to a penalty spot. 97 seconds later, the entire match has been torn up and rewritten. This is Football Untold. This is the story of Argentina v France 2022, the greatest final. Lionel Messi was 35 years old. He had won everything except the one trophy that meant everything. 3 times he had reached a World Cup final. 3 times he had left the pitch without lifting it. 1986, when his country's last star had held it above his head, was 36 years gone. Messi had been 4 years old then. He had spent his entire career aware of that shadow, aware that Argentina waited, aware that he carried the weight of one man's absence every time he stepped onto the pitch for his country. He had decided this would be his last World Cup. He had made that public. He had said goodbye to the idea that there would be another tournament, another chance, another final. December 18th, 2022, Lusail Stadium, Qatar. This was the mathematics of his career narrowed down to 90 minutes, or perhaps 120 if he was fortunate enough to deserve extra time. On the other side of that pitch was Kylian Mbappé. 23 years old, his career was still in its opening act. He had never lost a World Cup final. He had never played in one and walked away empty. In 2018, at Russia, as a teenager, he had scored twice and watched the trophy hoisted. Now, 4 years later, he was trying to do what only Brazil had managed since 1962, win it twice in a row. These 2 men were clubmates. They played for Paris Saint-Germain together. In November, they trained alongside each other. In December, they would meet on the game's biggest stage. Argentina came to Lusail with a manager named Lionel Scaloni who had made a single decision that would reshape the entire tournament. In the group stages, with Sergio Aguero recovering from cardiac events and Sergio Gomez struggling, Scaloni had recalled a winger named Angel Di Maria. Di Maria was 34 years old. His career was at twilight. Most believed the recalling had been an act of desperation. It was actually an act of genius. For 80 minutes on December 18th, Argentina did not look like a team playing in a World Cup final. They looked like a team that had already won it and were simply going through the choreography of the ceremony. Di Maria was untouchable down the left. Messi moved through the French defense like water through a sieve. In the 23rd minute, Angel Di Maria was fouled. Messi stepped to the penalty spot and buried it, 1-0. The second goal came in the 36th minute. It began at the Argentine goal line and ended with Di Maria's right foot curling the ball into the top corner of the net. The movement was fluid, the execution perfect. Many would later call it the finest goal of the entire tournament. It was impossible to disagree. France had registered 0 shots on target. 0. In a World Cup final. The squad sheet told its own story of desperation. Darius Dembélé, one of France's most explosive players, had been hooked at halftime, withdrawn from the field because nothing he was doing was working. Olivier Giroud, who had scored France's knockout stage goals, was taken off. This was not a team that was playing for something. This was a team that was being played off the pitch. If you understand football the way the people who love it understand it, what you had just witnessed in the first 80 minutes was Argentina executing a masterclass in every single principle of the game. Control, geometry, movement, decision-making, tempo. It was not a display of luck. It was a display of something closer to art. The final was over. Everyone knew it. Even the French players moving slower across the grass seemed to know it. And then, in the 80th minute, Christian Romero's defensive partner, Nicolas Otamendi, made contact with Kolo Muani inside the box. The referee pointed to the spot. What happened in the next 97 seconds would reshape the entire evening. Kylian Mbappé walked to the penalty spot. The ball was placed. He struck it with the authority of someone who had never known failure at this stage. The ball hit the net, 2-1. The funeral had just opened its first door. The ball was restarted. Argentina attempted to reset. In the 81st minute, almost immediately, the ball came to Sofiane Amrabat on the edge of the box. He flicked it upward. Before it had time to fully fall, before anything had time to be properly organized, Mbappé was there. His right foot struck it first. Time. The ball went past Emiliano Martinez into the corner at a velocity that suggested the goalkeeper had never had a chance. 2-2. 97 seconds. The fastest brace in a World Cup final had just been delivered. The ground that had been silent was now screaming. The team that was supposed to inherit the trophy was now searching for its life. Everything that had been certain was now chaos. The match spilled into extra time. It was in the 108th minute when Messi received the ball, scrambled it across the goal line with his leg, and Argentina took a 3-2 lead. His second goal, his personal nightmare, the one he had carried through 3 World Cups, was 1 goal away from being erased. In the 118th minute, as Mbappé prepared to score again, the ball was touched by Gonzalo Montiel's hand. Penalty. Mbappé stepped forward and scored his third, his first hat-trick in a World Cup final. The first hat-trick in a World Cup final since Jeff Hurst in 1966. 3-all. There were still minutes to play. In the 123rd minute, Kolo Muani broke free down the right side of the pitch. He was through on goal, the goalkeeper at his mercy. All he had to do was pass the ball into an empty net. Emiliano Martinez threw out his leg in what many would later call the save of the tournament, the moment that perhaps decided everything, and the ball deflected wide. Seconds later, at the other end, Lautaro Martinez climbed above the French defense and sent his header wide over the bar. Mbappé scored France's first penalty, his fourth goal of the evening. The highest individual scoring tally in a World Cup final in history. Emiliano Martinez then did something that goalkeepers do when they have decided that the night is theirs. He saved a penalty from Kingsley Coman. And in the moment before Aurélien Tchouameni stepped forward to take France's third penalty, Martinez stood in the center of the goal and waited. Tchouameni, visibly rattled, visibly aware that something in that moment had shifted, dragged his shot wide of the post. Gonzalo Montiel stepped forward. He was calm. The ball was placed. He struck it. The net moved. Argentina had won the World Cup. Messi had won the World Cup. 7 goals. 3 assists. The Golden Ball, the first man to ever win it twice. His Instagram post of the photograph, the one of him holding the trophy in the black bisht, became the most liked image in the platform's entire history. That image, that moment, has a credible claim to being the most viewed sports photograph ever taken. Mbappé had scored 8 goals in the tournament. The Golden Boot was his. He had become the highest scorer in World Cup final matches in history with 4 across 2018 and 2022, and he had lost. The neutrals, when they found their voice again, spoke in a single language. Gary Lineker on air said what most were thinking. The greatest World Cup final of all time, surely. There was no argument offered. There was no counterpoint raised. The night in Lusail had redefined what a final could look like. Before this match, finals were cagey affairs. Finals were decided by one goal, remembered for their tension, their caution, their resistance to chaos. Finals were the opposite of chaos. Lusail broke that pattern. One night, 2 teams. 5 goals in 90 minutes. A hat-trick in a World Cup final. A goalkeeper who became folklore. A 35-year-old man who had arrived at his last chance and found his redemption. If stories like this are why you love football, the ones where everything is staked and everything is played, the channel has a new one every week. Subscribe so the next Untold story finds you. Every final from now on will be measured against one night in Lusail. Tonight's players know it. They have watched the footage. They understand what was asked of their predecessors. That is the weight they carry onto the pitch. That is the shadow they play in. Some stories end at full time. This one never did.